Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so if you've ever found yourself, standing in the middle of a crowded room, awkwardly holding a lukewarm beverage, and just feeling absolutely exhausted by the mere thought of mingling, well, you are entirely in the right place. Today, we're unpacking a feeling that so many of us experience, but honestly, very rarely understand. We're going to look at the genuine psychology behind social fatigue. And I want to set the record straight right out of the gate here. If typical networking events, office parties, or, neighborhood get-togethers leave you feeling completely drained, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You aren't broken, your social battery isn't just inherently defective. Instead, there's actually this fascinating psychological dynamic at play, and understanding it completely changes how we view these everyday interactions.
Okay, let's dive into this, because for some of us, talking about the weather literally feels like physical pain. I mean, stop and think about that for a second, right? It's a deeply relatable, totally visceral reaction. We've all been trapped in that exact conversation. That agonizing back and forth about the humidity or the traffic on the way over, just the completely mundane details of daily existence. Now, for some folks, this is just, light social lubrication. But for you, it literally feels like physical discomfort. It triggers this intense, almost overwhelming urge to just escape. It's not just boring, it feels actively draining. It's like your energy is being siphoned out of you, literally, syllable by syllable. So why is that? Why on earth does mundane small talk provoke such a severe, almost painful reaction in certain people?
Well, the answer lies in a specific psychological concept, and it's really the absolute core of what we're explaining today. It's called having a high need for cognition. Now listen, this isn't a deficit. It's not some social phobia or an anxiety disorder. It's actually a specific neurological requirement. Your brain is quite literally wired in a way that actively craves deep ideas, substantial concepts, and meaningful exploration. And at the exact same time, it actively rejects meaningless filler. Think of it kind of like an engine that only runs on premium high-octane fuel, right? If you try to pour watered-down gas into it, what happens? The engine sputters, it stalls, it protests. Well, your brain operates the exact same way. It's hungry for substance. And when it's forced to process the verbal equivalent of empty calories, it rebels. And this brilliantly illustrates the intense internal conflict that happens the very second you walk into a party. On one side, your brain craves ideas. It wants to deconstruct complex topics. We're talking philosophy, emerging technology, or the really fascinating nuances of human behavior. It wants to share genuine passions and connect over things that actually truly matter. But then, on the other side, we have what it violently rejects, the filler. The weather, the generic compliments, those stiff, rehearsed elevator pitches. So when you're forced into small talk, you're basically starving your brain of the deep ideas it desperately craves while simultaneously force-feeding it the meaningless filler it naturally rejects. It's just a fundamental mismatch between what your psychological state demands and what the social environment is actually providing. So yeah, no wonder you leave feeling so completely exhausted.
But of course, living with a brain like this, it definitely creates some real friction in the real world. Because, let's face it, society is basically built on small talk. So people often misinterpret your fatigue, they see you disengaging, or maybe looking a bit bored, or trying to politely exit a conversation about someone's daily commute, and they just jump to conclusions. And that naturally leads to a really painful misconception. The question inevitably arises, are you just being rude and arrogant? Are you just a snob who thinks they're simply too smart for everyone else? Honestly, this is the label that gets slapped onto people who hate small talk all the time. And man, it's a heavy burden to carry, feeling like your natural psychological wiring just makes you come off as a jerk to the rest of the world.
Well, let me answer that question emphatically. No, absolutely not. You are not being rude, and you are definitely not being arrogant. What's actually happening here is that you just have a highly tuned, instant radar for inauthenticity. You spot fake behavior instantly. Because small talk, by its very nature, is a performance, right? It's a scripted exchange where people say things they don't really mean, to feign interest in things they don't really care about, pretty much just to keep the social gears turning. But your brain, with its high need for cognition and actual substance, sees right through that performance. You aren't acting arrogant. You're simply reacting to something that feels deeply unnatural and entirely fake to you.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is exactly how you handle that realization. Because you spot that fake behavior so clearly, you fundamentally refuse to play the game. Think of it kind of like a board game where everyone playing knows the rules are completely made up and the points don't actually matter. So when someone's putting on that polite, hollow front, your instinct isn't to just play along and roll the dice. Your instinct is to disengage completely. Furthermore, you outright refuse to offer surface-level validation. Let's be real, a lot of small talk is just people fishing for a nod, a forced smile, or a generic, "Oh wow, that's crazy." You withhold that. And not out of malice, but because offering fake validation feels just as gross as receiving it. You want to offer real validation for real ideas. So you aren't breaking the rules of society. You're literally just opting out of a game you never wanted to play in the first place.
Ultimately, everything we've discussed so far boils down to the single defining trait, a super low tolerance for inauthenticity. Your intense hatred of small talk isn't about antisocial behavior at all. It's about a fierce, unwavering preference for the real over the artificial. Think about it. When the environment is authentic, when the conversation actually has some weight to it, you probably find that you have plenty of energy, right? Like you could likely talk for hours with the right person about the right topic. But the very second the interaction becomes performative and inauthentic, your tolerance drops to absolutely zero. And this brings us to a final, crucial realization that honestly changes the dynamic of every single room you walk into.
So, the crucial point is this. We need to completely flip the script on your social anxiety. Because for years, you might have walked away from events thinking, "Oh, I'm so awkward, I'm so bad at small talk, I'm clearly the problem here." But I want you to consider this for a second. Is it your lack of small talk that's the problem? Or does your realness just make them uncomfortable? Think about that. When you refuse to play the fake game, when you crave genuine ideas, it holds a mirror right up to the superficiality of the situation. People who rely on that surface-level validation, they get unsettled by someone who demands authenticity. Your refusal to engage in filler isn't a weakness, it's a profound strength. You are demanding real connection in a world that is totally addicted to the superficial. And that, my friends, is something really worth thinking about the next time you find yourself dreading a conversation about the weather.